Good morning. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is a workshop for the Crystal River and Inverness airports. At this time, if you're willing and able, please join us for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Father, thank you for all your blessings that you've given us and for our health and our happiness and our prosperity here in the United States of America. I want to thank you for all the veterans who stormed that beach 79 years ago to defeat evil and to put us on the path of freedom and all the luxuries that we get. Thank you, Lord, and please forgive us for our faults, and please help us today to be wise in our decision making and that we get the most that we can out of this workshop this morning. In your name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, I'll ask Madam Deputy Clerk to do the roll call, please.
This is a public workshop of the Citrus County Board of County Commissioners, the 6th day of June, 2023. In attendance are Chair Ruthie Schleybaugh, First Vice Chair Holly Davis, Second Vice Chair Rebecca Bays, Commissioners Jeff Kennard and Diana Finnegan, County Administrator Steve Howard, and County Attorney Denise A. Diamond-Lynn.
Thank you. Okay, this is a workshop for the Crystal River and Inverness Airport. At this time,
Let me know. Sorry.
oh, and don't forget to silence your devices, please.
I thought I
Which
did. I don't know
reminds
why
me,
my watch is doing that.
I have not. So thank you. This time, Mary Jensen is not here today, correct?
Correct. It's going to be Quincy and Frank are going to tag team this
Okay.
presentation.
Very good. Gentlemen?
Chairman, members of the board.
Good morning.
Morning.
For the record, Quincy Weilepeck, Engineering Project Manager with the Technical Services Division. I'll start off, and a little bit partway through, Frank will step up to address some of the financial parts of it. I would like to take the opportunity at this point to introduce our new Engineering Project Manager, Todd Regan, who's in the audience. He'll be taking over my duties over the next few months.
Welcome.
Todd.
Okay. Okay, so starting out, we're talking about the master plans. As you all are aware, it's a comprehensive study of the airports. It describes the short, medium, and long-term plans tailored to the individual airports, of course. The master plans are generally funded at 90% funding from the FAA, 8% from DOT, and 2% from the county. We, in part, do these master plans, of course, for direction for the future, but one of the indirect benefits is that it kind of locks funding from the DOT and the FAA for future projects. Moving on. The master plan contains the master plan document, the airport layout plans, and the capital improvement plans. This is basically a pretty good figure of all that is involved. I won't read all this out, but one of the things I wanted to focus on in this slide is the public outreach. The way we've done these in the past is, for example, the last update we did, it was broken into 5 chapters, and those chapters, each of the completion of those chapters, we did a presentation to the Aviation Advisory Board. At that time, we advertise it to the public so that we would have public input during those meetings. So that's probably more than a typical master plan for public outreach, but the more the better. So we have a good rounded idea of what the public feels about the airports. that, I'll move into the Crystal River Airport first. Captain Tom Davis Field. This is the legend for the following slide, which is, this was really the long-term section of the airport. So some of these projects have been completed. As it shows the check marks, I want to mention that this was done by URS and it was completed in 2017, approved by the board and by the FAA. And the next update is scheduled for 2029.
Quincy,
Yes, ma'am.
if I may, number 3 on that slide,
Yes.
update airport master plan. Was that just put on the back burner because in 2025 there's going to be an update?
No, in 2025 is the Inverness one.
Okay.
This one was done later. This one was completed in 2017. The Inverness one was completed.
Oh, not till 2029. I see that
Yes.
now. So that's being put on the back burner for 2029?
Well, not really in the back burner. That's just when it's scheduled, because typically you'll update an airport master plan on average every 10 years, depending on what's done at the airport. We kind of, in a sense, we put it on the back burner, waiting till we get the runway extension done. So that would tie in, because when you do something significant like that, you should update it. You should update the airport layout plan at that time, so that way we're going to do it all at once.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Hopefully the runway extension will be done by, well, it will be done by then.
Thank you. Hopefully.
Yes. Okay, the next slide is kind of busy. Again, the legend at the top right is the one we were just looking at, just pointing out some of the completed projects, the check marks. The one on the left, I'm kind of circling, was the apron and taxi lane rehab project that was completed a few years ago. The check mark number 1, that's actually, it was slated for a hangar, and that's where Mr. Lamb built his hangar. Some of the future work, number 2, is to improve that connector area, which is, I don't recall the date of that one. The other one in this area is the future hangars. We have room here. You see these hangars here. These are our existing T hangars. We built 2 of them. The second one was completed about 2 years ago. The third one, which is just to the south of it, is proposed for 2025. That's another 10-unit T hangar building. And again, mentioned there's more future hangar space available over here. And this area here is parking. It's proposed for parking, but that could certainly, if need be, we could certainly build more hangars there. Something I wanted to point out about this, when I first started, the master plan we had at that time actually had a parallel taxiway on the south side where you could build additional hangars on the south side as well. We knew that was so far out, so when the last master plan was completed, we didn't put that in at that time. That's certainly something we can entertain in 2025 or 29 when we start this master plan update. The other main project, as we just alluded to, is the runway extension. That's to go about 650 feet or so, 645 feet, going to the east. That, as you know, is underway. You all just approved the budget resolution at the last meeting, and now with the budget resolution approved, we're able to get the EA work authorization approved, which is coming to your June 20 meeting for that, and then we'll get started on the EA. The EA will be about 12 to 18 months, and that EA was combined to be also to serve what was a separate project, was to remove the wetlands on the south side of the runway. But since the FAA knew that we were doing an EA for the runway extension, they said to combine would make sense to do one EA for both projects. Along parallel to the wetland removal project or associated with, we started per FAA requirements a wildlife study. Started in January. That's a 1-year study. They're out there 3 or 4 times a month, all day, 4-hour period, 8-day period, to do a good wildlife study, mitigation study, and that's being done as part of that wetland removal project to justify that. So all that's moving forward. And related to the runway extension, as some of you may be aware, we're looking at a through the fence operation with the golf course owners. We've been talking with the FAA. They still haven't given us an answer back as to whether they allow new through the fence. The language that I had read, it implied that it did, but he mentioned that it was, they thought that there was this grandfathered in, so they were sending that up to regional to see a clear direction on that. Another future project that's not specifically listed on here is to try and acquire the parcels, the Dairy Queen and the building next to it in the future for the parallel or for the turf runway. And anything else I wanted to mention on this one? And one other project that we're working on is to replace the fuel tanks. We've had a few progress meetings. Design is underway on that, and we should be getting the second allotment of funds from DOT after their fiscal year starts July 1. So hopefully we'll have enough money. It's about $1.1 million project to do that. And hopefully that'll be enough to do what we have to do there. One of the things with that project is due to the new FEMA rules, we have to raise the operating cabinets 6 feet. So it's going to be a little more cost associated with that. So the next slide is something we've been talking about for a while. The original intent was to see what
Quincy.
we could do.
Excuse me, Commissioner Bays.
One question, on the
Yes, ma'am.
fuel tanks, due to the FEMA rules,
Yes,
because the ground elevation or the base flood elevation,
yes,
that's not required at Inverness, correct?
no.
Okay, thank you.
Inverness is plenty high.
Thank you.
So this started out where we got several pots of money from the federal government for the related to the COVID issue. One, I don't remember what the acronym means. It was CRISA, and it was determined that we would use those CRISA funds to help make improvements around the FBOs at both airports. The CRISA funding was about $23,000 for Crystal River, $13,000 for Inverness. But as discussion ensued, we realized other things that would be good to get done, and these are the primary things that were mentioned by the FBO at Crystal River: the walkway cover and the new restroom. As you can see, that estimated cost is about $158,000. Transferring the county hangar leases to the FBO is something that's been discussed off and on for the last year or so. The FBO at Crystal River and the previous county administrator kind of agreed to 18% to the FBO for them to handle that if we decide to transfer those leases to the FBO. And lastly, to add one additional security camera that would be pointing towards the fuel site, an estimated cost at $1,300. That's been approved by the board, and we've cut a PO, and it's been scheduled for, I believe, June 20 or 21 to have that camera installed. So that covers Crystal River. Do you have any questions at this time?
Commissioner Davis.
It's funny how you read my mind. Very thorough presentation. I wasn't aware that you'd already gone to the FAA to find out if we can have a pass through the fence.
Yes.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yes.
So I heard supposedly it does exist out there. So, but it's the FAA. We never know.
Yes, and he's a new planner to Florida, and obviously it's just something that he wasn't familiar with, so he really wanted to take the time, being new here, just really to dig into it and speak with his higher ups, and I think they're actually sending that issue to regional in Atlanta to get a final determination on that. So hopefully.
And you mentioned the two properties on the north end of the turf runway. The other
Yes.
one, of course, is I think that the highest and best use of where the armory is, since they don't have any fixed wing operations, is they could have much more elbow room and the chance to do greater work somewhere better located in the county, and we'll take that lease back at some point.
It's something, I don't know if you know, Commissioner, you weren't at the last AAB meeting, I mentioned it, but the Armory is in the process of expanding parking. there.
Okay.
Just wanted to let you all know that.
Well, we can use that when they do, so it's, not trying to kick them out or be unfair. I'm just long range thinking, that's all.
Yes, ma'am. Very good.
That's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Board members, any questions? Commissioner Bays?
No.
Commissioner Finnegan? Okay, thank you, Quincy. Very well. Very well done. Thank you.
I'm going to move on. I got to do Inverness now.
Okay, that's good.
The Inverness Airport. So we'll jump right into the master plan. Again, this is, I believe this was a long-term exhibit out of the plan. This plan was completed in 2015. So it's 8 years old now, and we plan on starting the next one in 2025. Again, the timing was good because we should be well along with the business park by then. So let me just go over some of these projects. The check marks again are ones that we've completed, the apron and taxiway rehab, that kind of beige area. The rehab, the airport rotating beacon, that's been done a while ago. Relocated the fuel farm when we built the new FBO facility on the south end. Just for some of the history there, we were kind of locked in for a while. The runway was only about 3,200 feet. The city actually owned the south quarter of the runway and the property, the east or the south quarter or so of the airport itself. And then south of that was spray fields. But again, south of that, we had purchased property from the Holdens, knowing that eventually we should hopefully acquire that property from the city, which we did around 2008. It was about 70 acres, and that's what really kind of opened the airport up for growth. That's when we extended the runway to 5,000 feet. A few years later, we started the FBO project and completed that around 2010-11, I think. And then the first T-Hangar building, which is the other check mark, the bluish building, that one's a 16-unit building. We completed that around 2014. And we just working to keep moving south. When we did that first T-Hangar project, we did the stormwater for the whole south area per se. And again, there's big words there, existing stormwater drainage. We did that to handle the next 5 hangar buildings. Related to that, even though you see future here, we have proposed new T-hangars, new 80 by 100 square foot or 80 foot by 100 foot hangars on this area. We recently had a company called Livewire approach us about wanting to move their operation here from Alabama, and so we started looking at the concept of developing a heliplex in this area. So it happens that we have funding lined up for, should be this fall from the state. 80 or hangar money is now 50-50. Used to be 80% or 80-20%. We had funding lined up to do the second T-hangar building, $3 million, but with the interest in moving their business here, we're looking at the option of using those funds to build it. I believe our initial numbers looking at upwards of a 20,000 square foot hangar for something like that. I did reach out to DOT to see if we could change the title of that funding from T-hangars to box hangars, which I just got word from him yesterday. He looked at their work program, and that should be doable. So come, like I said, July, their grant will be available, and then our remaining matching funds will be available October 1, so we can move forward with that project as directed. One of the other new issues on this is over on the left side of the screen, this red circle with the, I'll say that's a little flame in there. That's the proposed site for a fire station. So we're looking at that now as well. Far ahead.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
Yep, that's-
Commissioner Kennard.
the proposed fire station, is that something small just to service the airport, or that's a
No.
new county fire station?
That's the county fire station, and possibly in the future, that could become what they call an ARF station, which would serve the airport. Well, it would serve the airport as well anyway, but I don't know that if it would, when it would be able to reach the designation of an ARF station, if we ever reach that level of service. But yes, it's primarily to serve the community, and it would certainly be a benefit to the airport and the business park as well.
Yeah, and I think just real quickly, my understanding analysis, it would pick up about another 20,000 homes with the ISO rating, which would be a real big win.
Okay, so we're not closing a fire station to relocate here, we're adding a fire station.
I don't know that.
Yeah, Frank's got a little more detail on that.
Good morning. So the idea is that 20,000 residents basically is that dense area of the Highlands. And when the shift happened between Inverness Fire Department and the county, it sort of left those folks in the lurch. So the fire service has been looking to fill this need for some time. We had discussions about where the best location for them was, and actually the north end of the airport is about the only location that will serve that need of that 20,000 residents. The south end down by Watson wasn't feasible because we're basically working together to try to get the maximum benefit for those folks. My understanding is fire has a significant amount of money, I think 2 million or something like that, to build this station. They just needed the land. We've got utilities there. We get the efficiencies of serving the community, but now we'll have that on-site airport fire station that can also serve the airport. And then with the development into the ARF, which sometimes you can get federal fire trucks that are suited for aviation donated, we could then have the added benefit of having the dual. So basically serve the community, they go out the front gate of the airport, serve the airport and the business park, they stay on property.
And up until now, it was my understanding that the next location for a fire station was going to be out off of Cardinal by the new interchange, where the Suncoast Parkway is at. So has that been scrapped now? Are we not doing that? Or we're doing 2 new fire stations?
Unfortunately, I don't have that answer. Fire services would probably be the only ones that could answer that. Yeah.
Yeah, we can follow up. I'm not aware of them scrapping anything else, but I can, and I've had a discussion about that, but we can follow up just to ensure.
Okay, and if we did do this fire station at the airport, how many firefighters, additional firefighters, is it now going to take to man that?
My understanding, and I'm not really schooled on this closely, was it was going to be a huge increase in staff because I think it was a reallocation or something like that. So couple, 2, 3, I think, but again, fire service will have to answer that. We didn't get in the granular details, but I don't think this is going to be a huge financial change for their operations.
My concern, and don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to putting a fire station there, but my concern is the cost of doing that is going to be significant after we just approved the SAFER grant application to hire 13 new firefighters to go to 3 men to a truck. I very much doubt that Chief Stevens is going to want to reduce back to 2 men to a truck to man this station. But this station rather will be 3 men to a truck also, times 3 shifts per day. That's a lot of new firefighters, a lot of additional expense for this proposed fire station. So that's all.
Sure.
Commissioner Finnegan.
I really don't want to speak for the fire chief, but since I just had a meeting with him this past week, it's my understanding, but please follow up with the chief, that for Inverness, it would be a relocation of the fire station because in their matrix by the airport would serve a lot more people than where it is currently at the back of the Highlands. But please follow up with the chief. I do not want to speak for him.
That would make sense.
Yeah, we can have a, I mean, we can bring all that forward. I'll ensure that you get all the information.
Thank you. Commissioner Bays.
A lot of this was born, as Frank said, when the city took back their fire station. That displaced the county's fire station about 1.5 miles further south into the Highlands. And by the ISO ratings on the consumer level, what happened is it displaced all of that south end of the county. So everything that's out there off of Sandpoint, the Inverness Country Club, the ISO ratings now are 9s and 10s. And I've gotten a tremendous amount of calls regarding this. a lot of people that have lived out there for years and have no mortgages, they're just absolutely going bare because of two insurance factors. One, if you have an ISO rating of a 9 or a 10, there's very few companies that are actually taking those type homeowners policies. And if you do, they're extremely expensive. The cost benefit factor outweighs what they can afford. So when they did the analysis about moving this airport, that's how we picked up the 20,000 households. It's actually a better plan to service our community. And as we have these infill, we need to be able to service our customers. It's good for the county and it's good for our residents.
Thank you. Anything else, Commissioners?
I
Frank.
would have one quick point as well. In economic development, essentially location of fire station and dropping that ISO for industrial development is actually a strategy. Two things that industry wants. They want foam on every truck, right? And we're there now, which is fantastic. They also sometimes are concerned about ladder height and then ISO rating. So if we can stage a fire station near industrial land, we reduce a barrier to entry for those industrial projects.
Thank you. And this is a proposed fire station in anticipation of having light industry out there, which would generate jobs, which would generate rooftops, which would generate a higher tax base, correct?
That is correct, but because there's such a need on the residential side, this is really a win-win. I mean, it's a slam dunk because we've already got the need for this fire station if there was no industrial development. But the fact that we've got a business park, that they're under development right now, it's a fantastic time.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
I just want to be clear that I completely, I am on board if we're relocating the station. If we're creating a new station, and that was my initial question. If we're creating a new station and scrapping the Cardinal station that's been talked about for years, then we got to have a longer discussion. But if this is relocating to better serve, and I've heard these discussions, since Inverness decided not to join the fire MSBU and created their own, I had heard that the location of our existing station did not serve that part of the community well. So, all right.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Bays.
Just one additional follow-up to Commissioner Kennard is I've had some conversations also with the chief about the Homosassa fire station because it is in a flood zone, possibly trying to get some resiliency dollars to get it out of Homosassa and up to 19 to that Cardinal area. And that could possibly be a funding mechanism for that.
Right.
Thank you. Continue.
Yes, ma'am. A few other things I want to mention on this slide that was kind of added later was the as a result of one of y'all's previous workshops was for beautification. We are looking to add a project for both airports for signage and landscaping at the entrance to the Crystal River and the Inverness airports. I failed to mention that during the Crystal River slide, so I wanted to mention that here. Also, as you all are sure, I'm well aware that the business park, as we were just talking about, is moving forward a little slower than we'd like. The gopher tortoise issue raised its head again, and the environmental scientist is making an application for reservations for a bunch of gopher tortoises and for permitting to relocate approximately 40, possibly 40, 45 gopher tortoises. So as soon as we get those permits, we'll get started on that and then hopefully break ground in the next couple months. Related to the business park, something that I had mentioned last year, we did a workshop May of last year. Some of y'all recall, I brought up the issue of improving Watson Street at that time, and it was decided not to move forward at that point for that one. But with Frank's energy here, he's certainly added the common sense information that with the business park, having that access, that improvement is certainly viable for the business park. So he's going to be talking more about that, about moving that issue forward. Again, as you're aware, the initial funding for the business park was a state appropriation for $5,080,000. And now we're hoping to get the additional 9.1 million needed to complete the entire project, which would finish out the core of the business park, what we're calling the non-aeronautical side. You see the word aeronautical down here, non-aeronautical. Related to the aeronautical, which is kind of, in a sense, good the way it worked out this way, because the FAA was going to require us, if we were going to try to do it all at once, to possibly do an EA. We submitted a categorical exclusion last summer, I believe, and we still have not got a clear answer from the FAA on that. I did recently get an email from our consultant asking for additional information so evidently it's risen to the pile at the FAA, and they've started looking at it. They want to know what our based aircraft and operations are at the airport, which we'll be sending to them shortly to hopefully get that categorical exclusion. Then we'll be done with that part, because we have to do an EA, as you heard for the runway extension. The Chris Waiver, that's going to take a year to a year and a half. So we're really hoping that categorical exclusion gets approved. One other thing I want to mention, this airport, something we've been working on for probably 3 years now, is, we have obstructions on both ends of the runway. We did an extensive aerial survey, thousands of points, of course, maybe 100 of them are for one tree, but anyway, we had a whole bunch of data that we processed and submitted exhibits to the FAA, and they decided, because they're funding 90% of the project at a minimum, one of those grants, I believe, was 100% because it was COVID related or COVID timing. But they directed us to go ahead and just make the effort to remove the obstructions on the airport, which we started moving forward. We did that design. We went out to bid earlier this year in order to get the bid in and to submit the final grant application to the FAA by May 5th. Well, we got 0 bids. So we talked with the FAA about trying to get it rebid. But it doesn't look like the time is going to work, because their AIP schedule is pretty tight. So they admittedly said that they're not as critically concerned about the obstructions on the airport, because they're not in the direct approaches. The more the concern is the off-airport ones on both ends. And but they're reluctant to move forward with that project until they see how much citizen buy-in we have. So I've recently reached out to the DOT to ask if they would possibly fund a public outreach study. So basically, we have our consultant identify obstructions on each property, and then talk to that property owner to see if they were willing to let us mitigate those. So DOT said wait and see in July, see if he has money left over to help fund that project. That will probably be an 80-20 funding. So we're possibly moving forward with that study this fall.
Quincy,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Kennard has a question.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Quincy, what obstructions are we trying to get removed?
Lots of trees.
Lots of trees.
Primarily lots of trees, especially because this going to the north, to the left side of the screen, this neighborhood, that's steadily going uphill. So we have a whole lot of obstructions up there.
Okay.
And we still have some obstruction down on the south, the edge of this neighborhood here, just to the west of the business park. There's some trees, more limited there. Some of it is the fencing right next to Holden Park, right in this area. And the cattle fence that we have here, we have to relocate a portion of that. Actually, the trees that are in the animal shelter, a lot of those are going to have to be topped or taken down. And then on the airport, again, this whole corner over here, most of this, all of those are obstructions on the side slopes. So most of those will have to come down as well.
It seems odd that we had 0 bids. Is that unusual?
We had a consultant, I thought it was, and as a matter of fact, with CIC starting, they were awarded the business park. They're a big company. The bulk of that project's going to be clearing 70 acres, 75 acres. So I called him and asked him why he didn't bid on it. He said, actually, they missed it. He said, if you put it out again, I'll bid on it. You'll get a bid from me, because he's going to be there for 2 years. If we get that 9.1 million that I mentioned, when we bid that project, we bid it in like 4 or 5 alternate bids. And so we can award 3 of those to him because it's in his bid. So he'll be able to just keep running with a lot of that work. But yes, and the consultant tried to reach out to some of the other plan holders that were on the list, and they just didn't think it, because when they heard FAA, they see Davis-Bacon and so forth, they just didn't know if it was worth the headache, the dollar amount. So, but to tie it to an existing project, it would have been a no-brainer. I mean, we couldn't tie it directly to the business park because it would have to be two separate projects. One would be FAA and one's not. So, but yes, we were surprised. We got no bids. The only bid we got, the guy just filled out the portion for fencing. It wasn't even a full bid.
Do you think it had something to do with the way the bid documents were written or how they were advertised? I mean, it just seems odd that there's,
No.
and now from what I'm hearing is that we've likely missed out on DOT money to clear these obstructions.
No, well, no, because this is definitely an FAA project. I mean, they're very involved in this now. They provided a lot of funding for this project, so this is it's kind of their baby per se. So we'll guarantee 90% funding when we do move forward.
Okay.
And typically, without fail, when FAA is involved, DOT will provide 8% of the remaining 10%. And actually, we actually have a grant in-house that we haven't brought to the board yet because we didn't know how this was going to play out. Well, actually, was going to take it to the board at the same time as the bid, so to accept those funds. But I've been talking to DOT. They know that we're holding on to that grant, and I believe their portion was like $25,000. So part of my conversation to him was, since we can't move forward with the on airport obstruction removal, we could most likely use that $25,000 that we're holding right now as part for the public outreach study. So I don't think they'll have a problem with that. So DOT's they tend to be pretty involved. You're correct though. Sometimes if you miss the schedule with DOT, they'll tell you it's 5 years out.
Right.
Because they have a 5-year schedule, but they've always really been good to work with. And like when we had the problems with the fuel tanks at Crystal River, dealing with Commissioner Davis, we looked to DOT and see if we could possibly move that project up. So I reached out to them, and we didn't use some funding. For example, we had funds, DOT had funds set aside for the runway extension that we were hoping to move forward with. And so they allowed us to, they reallocated those funds for the fuel tank project. So they've been really good to work with and provide funding when we need it.
Now, you just said they reallocated some funds from runway extension. Those funds will be replaced for the runway extension, correct?
Well, the runway extension is intended, the 7.1 million is 100% funding.
Okay.
So that's already, yes, so it's separate. When I say reallocated, they didn't directly reallocate our grant to our other project, because now they have to put it back in the pot.
Okay.
And then when the end of the fiscal year, if there's money left over, they divvy it back out. So,
Okay.
but we've always been able to get the funding we needed from DOT.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
Commissioner Bays.
So is it clearing or topping?
Some of both, mostly clearing. Because like a pine tree, if you top 20 feet, it's going to die, so you're going to take it down. A full-grown live oak, if you top it too much, it's going to die. You have to take it down. So it depends on the size of the tree. And the other issue is if you top it, in 5-10 years, it's going to grow back, into the obstruction. So I may have to. So most of these will probably be taking them down. Yes. Move forward.
Are you done, Commissioner Bays?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I covered this slide. I'll move forward. This is we discussed the Crystal River FBO request. This is the Inverness. These are some points that were brought up by the FBO at Inverness. The improved airport signage, which, as I mentioned, we have that in the CIP to start working on that, I believe, next year. 100 new T hangars. We'd love to have 100 new T hangars. We'd love to have 10 corporate hangars. So these are all certainly things that we could work forward towards, and many of these we are working forward with. So there's no questions on this, I'm going to move on to the next slide. That pretty much covers Inverness Airport. Any questions? Comments?
Board? Could, next time, could you, for the directionally challenged, could you give me a little more direction and roads? And I figured it out
Ma'am?
for being out there enough, but it would just help.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay, nothing?
And now we have Frank to come up.
Okay, Frank.
All right. So the Florida Department of Transportation puts out some estimates on both Crystal River and Inverness airports. So they've got, I think it was last year, 9.65 million annual output for, oh, I'm sorry, 2019 is what it is on the slide, for Inverness Airport, and 8.04 million annually for Crystal River Airport. You know, I had Duke Energy run some in-plan economic development modeling numbers based on some of the build-outs that we're looking at, especially for the Inverness Airport. And once the business park is done, and just that 24,000 square foot hangar that we're going after for the grant could add 200 million annually in GDP and about 800 jobs. That's direct and indirect. You know, you have to be cautious with some of those numbers. You know, modeling is, you've got to put in a lot of variables, but it's significant impact that we're talking about when we look at the output for aviation. High skill, high wage jobs. Everybody that touches a plane is a highly trained person generally. And any industry that's working with aviation is pretty expensive. If you think of the fact of private, just boating, you know, marinas and things, you know, every time you need a part for a boat, and, you know, the saying in boats is used boats are cheap, but the parts are expensive. So it's that kind of thing with aviation, I'm told, 5 times. So as we can build out these airports, bring in commercial operations, we can expect fantastic returns on investment just because of the high cost of these technologies and so on. Do you want to go next slide or? So there are some items to address, and these were the initial items that came up. Right now, there's a lease template that is, you know, before y'all that. Basically, Public Works has looked at it from 2 standpoints. You've got the 25 plus 5-year extension, so that's a 50-year commitment. And then you've got the 25 plus 2 5-year extensions, which is a 35-year commitment. It's where an individual brings capital, private capital, builds a hangar, gets the privilege of leasing that ground underneath that hangar. So that is something to consider. We'll talk about the couple other bullet points down, but you know, I do want to say that 50 years is a big commitment. So you know, you got to look at the financial capital, right, that they're bringing to the table. In economic development, if somebody does this essentially as a ground lease, you look at the investment and then you amortize that over the period of time. That's how you arrive at that number of how long that person gets the privilege of using that. The only difference in this is because it's a county-owned airport, once that thing is CO'd, it becomes county property. So in the private sector, it can go a bunch of different ways, but in this case, that's where we're at. So then the next bullet point is lease management. This is one of the basically the things to work out, and the next bullet point will address this somewhat, but at this point, we've got 2 FBOs that are operating at the airports. Some of them lease hangars to the public. We've also got county staff that are leasing hangars to the public. So there's duplication of services right there. So part of going forward through this discussion and this next bullet point, which is the financial analysis and strategic business planning, is to determine, can we get efficiencies by having one or the other do that function? And generally in business, you will get some efficiencies there. All right. I think that's pretty much. Any questions? I mean, I'm happy to elaborate if you all have questions. I just don't want to Well, let me go right into the financial analysis and planning recommendations. So as we started conversations between economic development and public works, it became apparent that we needed to do a few things. We're looking at these airports from the standpoint of economic development drivers. Historically, they've been airports where you've had some jet traffic, some folks with more expensive planes building commercial hangars and things like that. But for the most part, small planes coming in, people stopping by. We've been asked as of January to step this up and make this a strategic economic development initiative. So that necessitated conversations that led to the idea of going after a grant from Duke Energy for a financial analysis to look where do we make money on the airports, where do we lose money on the airports, how are our agreements with the FBOs serving the county and serving the FBO that provides a service for us. And then we started to say, well, now we've got a business park coming to Inverness. We've got a desire for expansion at Crystal River in commercial hangars and T hangars. So that led to the next step, which was going after that grant to get a consultant that is an expert in the field to look at both airports, look at their attributes, look at the lease agreements, the revenue. And so it grew into a larger study about strategic business planning based on those master plans that are existing now. So Public Works has 3 aviation consultants on board. Turns out they had an expert firm, which I was delighted to hear. We had a presentation last week, and if you all have not received it, we will follow up with information on the initial scope of services that this covers, and also the credentials of the folks that are going to be conducting this study. If you all give me a little bit of money, I did receive $10,000 from Duke Energy, so I got notification yesterday. So they funded our study proposal to $10,000. The study itself is going to be about $50,000. So the county's going to. I'm asking for about $40,000 of economic development funds to go into this study. I hope to have that on the agenda for 6/20 because the consultant believes they can do this in under the 6 months that's on the proposal. And so by the end of the year, we could have a strategic business plan that is going to look at many things. And one of the things I'd like to do is read just a few bullet points, if that's okay, from that analysis. So they will analyze existing conditions, look at competitive aviation services, assets and opportunities, financial analysis, including a pro forma that is going to give us a projection of what we can have at the airports if we choose to advance under their recommendations, the implementation plan, and they'll do meetings and presentations as well. So they will look at our facilities. They will look at the buildings, the land use, aircraft activity, airport budget, policy and guiding documents, governance and management policies. They're going to look at the agreements with the FBOs, as I mentioned, see if they're benefiting both folks. Competitive aviation services analysis, again, looking at both airports, determining if we are competitive with our neighbors and competitors. Assets and opportunities, identification of resources that we can move forward with, opportunities, lines of business that we may be missing, or lines of business that are profitable and we want to expand. Then the financial analysis will look at the revenue and expenses of these airports and determine what are the best things to pursue, what are the best ways to manage, and those kinds of things. Rates and charges, looking at potentially doing an enterprise fund to manage the airports, so there's more detailed cost accounting, so you really have a say in where you put your resources and an understanding of what these things, basically running it like a business, although, again, it is a government and you have to have different goals, but there's no reason you can't use your cost accounting as a business would. Our utilities, water resources is run as an enterprise fund. And so, you can go to Ken and ask him exactly what he's paying for maintenance or these kind of things. So it's an interesting idea. Again, if there's not economies of scale, the consultant is going to tell us that that's not right for Citrus County. I would say just one more thing, the financial sustainability plan will be important as well. And then, of course, recommendations, presentations, and so on. I just would want to mention that the gentleman that will be the principal on this study is an accredited airport executive, 15 years in aviation, and you'll get a statement of qualifications for these folks. But, ran airports in Louisiana, now in Florida, has been active since I think it was 2020 in, I think 11 airports in Florida, so a good understanding. Not only is that gentleman the principal, but you've got his engineering firm and then a secondary engineering firm with folks with extensive resumes that know the businesses, know the facilities, the understanding of the FAA and how that works, grant potential, just basically going to look at what we're doing and give us recommendations. So again, I think it's a very comprehensive study. I'm sorry, it was very last minute time, and we just found out about the Duke grant yesterday, and we just got the proposal number, the final number on that scope, I think last week.
Thank you. Frank, I'm just going to come right out of the gate with this.
Yes.
I'm supportive of getting a consultant to come and talk to us about assets and opportunities, the land use. My question is, I am not opposed to the leases and private sector putting hangars on there. My problem is we are so close to 2025, and I'm not willing to tie up land for up to 50 years and up to 35 years where maybe that somebody would say this would be a great area for this, and because obviously, my number one goal has always been getting jobs and expanding that airport from the get-go. And I'm also wondering if this consultant is approved and you get your 40,000, which I'm in support of. There's a big chunk of land once we move the animal shelter. And would this consultant advise us on that part of the land use? I'm not sure about that.
Yes, and I will say the way I wrote the scope is they are going to interview folks, including county staff. They're going to meet with each of the FBOs. They're going to meet with the Aviation Advisory Board as well. So there will be opportunities to put input for ideas like that. Really, the scope had to focus on what we know, but if there are opportunities for land, which there are, that said, I'll answer your original point. We are really blessed with a lot of land at both airports. So if I think there's 3 leases on the table right now, it's not going to, if they're approved, it's not going to change the long-term trajectory. That's just what we've been doing. That's the way we've been doing it. The consultant is going to look at ideas like, do we get private development, private capital come in and build those 100 hangars? I mean, we've got waiting lists at both airports for commercial businesses that want to locate here, individuals that want to build, want to rent hangars. Like there's 14 people right now waiting for the Inverness Airport. And our prices are reasonably competitive, what it looks like. So, but if you've got that many people, that's pent up demand, and we're probably missing an opportunity if we're not looking at sources. We've done pretty good, I think, on building with grants. We've got a couple of hangars in the pipeline. At least one Public Works has money for right now at Inverness Airport. But there are other ways, and again, it's going to be for the consultant to do this. But I will say, in other jurisdictions, it's been done where they do a bond and they build that sucker out, and now you've got hangars galore, and you fill them up. And if you can pay your debt service, the county benefits because we own those assets that you can do through private development. Private capital comes in, builds it out, but they're going to get the return on that investment for the foreseeable future, maybe 50 years until they've recovered from that, so we don't get the instant benefits of the leases, whereas with the bonding. So those are the kind of things where, again, I think I mentioned it yesterday at a meeting, it's sort of been popcorn style. Somebody comes over and says, hey, I want to build a commercial hangar at Crystal River. We have the room. Boom, there's a hangar. And that's okay for the way we were going, perhaps. But now we're looking to step it up, and now's the time to really think big and critically, get expert advice. I mean, I love the idea of a second taxiway at Crystal River. You think about how many T hangars and commercial hangars. I had the fortune of going to both airports a few times over the last few months, and I was with Mr. Chen on Friday last week. Beautiful day, Crystal River Airport. I met folks from 3 different countries that are here investing in our economy to do flight training. I get kind of warm and fuzzy on it, but we've got so much potential. We can turn those airports into welcome centers. Think of them as welcome centers. How nice when you've gone up, to places like, I think in the mountains up in the Carolinas and Georgia. You ever go to stop at those welcome centers that blow you away, and
Yeah.
you're just like, wow, that's why people move there. That's why people want to visit there again. It's that first impression when you walk in there, and there's the hot cocoa and the coffee, and the restrooms are clean. And look, I grew up here. We've got county airports that look like the county built them. I mean, they're metal, and they need some sprucing. We know that, and this board has expressed that. But we've got a tourism industry that can fund some of this capital improvement. It was successful in Sumter County, the signage, the idea of a welcome center. I think we've got tremendous opportunities, but I think it's timely that we are looking at these, study and these improvements.
Well, and you're speaking my love language, economic development.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a new one that they put in the love languages.
Okay.
But, January 2021, Commissioner Kennard, Commissioner Davis, and I were at our goal setting workshop. And I actually made a swag bag for the airports.
Perfect. Yeah.
And it's up in my office, sitting up there collecting dust, that I said, listen, let's be purposeful at the Inverness Airport. The Crystal River Airport has limitations because of the space, but we're all very encouraging of that. It's running well. We've got, things, but I've said all along, Inverness has such an opportunity, and we have to be purposeful. This whole area, and no fault to anybody in this room at all, but is very hodgepodge. And I want to be purposeful. And if it is about getting the leases for the private sector that wants to build their own hangars, then let's have an area that's where it's going to go, and let's have a plan. No, it's here. Let's grab it. We're not desperate. I'm tired of being desperate. So if we could do something and show and make this a shining star for our county, I mean, you see what airports bring. I grew up in the airport. Commissioner Davis grew up in the airport. We understand this, we encourage it, and I'm so excited to see, even this presentation from Livewire Aviation. It actually makes our presentation look a little sad. So we need to step things up. So thank you for what you're doing, and you're looking for consensus, not crazy about the leases till we have a plan. I am in favor of getting you some economic development money, and that's all I have to say. Who would, Commissioner Davis, and then Commissioner Finnegan, you have?
Very well done, Frank. Good job.
Thank you.
Still so glad to have you on the team.
Thank you.
I would be in favor of the consultant, absolutely. You know how I am about my love language is strategic planning. But as far as the ground leases go, I'm going to get my cheat sheet here. Are you recommending that we go forward with I guess we have 3 on the table right now? Or what is staff recommendation? Because my overarching thought on this is that it's just like any negotiation. Private capital, we've got a lot of demands for government money right now, a lot, between all the infrastructure things that we have to do. So if there is a clean area that we can get private funds in, then that might actually be, and I'll look at Aaron for that to figure out whether that's the way to go or not. And then it just becomes a negotiation. How few of these extensions can we do and still get the funds in where they make a good return, but we're not leaving money on the table. So that's my high level sort of thought process on that. I absolutely believe lease management for the hangar should be either one or the other. And you said there would be efficiencies in there. What you didn't mention would be customer service. Having
Exactly.
one place for people to go to get on a list and to communicate with would be really beneficial to the folks that are looking for hangar space. So as long as, to Commissioner Schlebach's point, as long as any leases before this is done are relatively competitive where it benefits both parties, and then also is in a place where we know it's going to be okay in the long-term plan, I would be okay with it. Those are two pretty big provisions, though, that I just stated.
And again, I can, as far as where they go, Public Works ultimately decides that, but conversation with Quincy yesterday, these 3 hangars that are proposed are not going to change the long-term build out and trajectory. From the economic development standpoint, it's 3 more planes that are coming in, selling fuel, landing, ramp fees, whatever, that generates. So,
What size hangars are they?
that I don't know.
They're about 50 by 50.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm good.
And these are the people wanting to build the hangars own the airplanes, or are they just intending to rent them out?
I have to defer to Quincy on that.
I believe they have their own aircraft. They
Okay.
They intend to put their own
Because
aircraft.
that's what it was set up for, the private sector's personal aircraft. Okay. Commissioner Finnegan.
Thank you. Since Commissioner Schlebach said we're looking for consensus, I just wanted to let you know that that's a great job. And I think giving you money for the consultant is money well spent for the people of Citrus County, because I think that's going to turn around and produce more money for the county overall. So I think that's a great idea. I don't think there's, in this time period, we're going to have, well, you never know, but anyone looking to build. But I do think that we should stop approving any building until we hear back what the consultant will say. We wouldn't want to do any long-range planning if we're going to pay for someone to do long-range planning that makes the best sense for the people of Citrus County. So I am all for the consultant and getting economic development for the Inverness Airport. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Kennard?
Frank, it's my understanding that these hangars don't pay for themselves. Is that correct? That the rent doesn't cover, or the ROI is decades out there? Is that accurate, or?
Well, the discussion around the industry has been that a good many counties, the hangar leases are not what they should be.
Okay.
And DOT at one point told me about 5 years ago that that's probably why they were going to 50-50 funding instead of 80-20, because the counties weren't getting the return on investment per their standards.
Okay. So they're, not to say they're not a benefit, but maybe that's a loss leader, if you will, because we're going to sell fuel. They're bringing in, and maybe they're going out to lunch or staying in town for a while, things like that. So I didn't mean to come across as being critical of that. I just want to make sure that I had my facts correct. And so I see a lot of proposed hangars on this master plan. And I'm not sure that I can see a time in the next 10, 15, 20 years that the county is going to have 50% to build these hangars out. We also heard that that approving the 3 leases that are on the table right now are not going to change the long-term trajectory of the airport. I would like to see us actually move, and maybe this is a discussion to be had after we hear back from the consultant. But I'd like to see us move more in a direction of public-private partnerships. We've got the land. What we don't have is the cash to build the hangars. If private industry out there is willing to come in and build these hangars, we don't have the loss leader anymore. We're still selling the fuel. We're still getting all the economic benefit. What we don't have to do is put millions and millions of dollars out there for these hangars. I want to see the hangars get built. Tomorrow would be perfect. And so I'm thinking that there's likely more private money out there, that if we give them a plan, if we put a plan out there, which I'm hoping the consultant would do, that private money would come in and say, okay, we are willing to build these 20 hangars here on this property, county specs and all of that kind of stuff. And we get the benefit of all the planes coming in without the loss leader. So that would be a direction I would like to see us going. Certainly just one of five, but I would like to see that happen so that this plan gets some legs to it. And right now, as I believe Commissioner Davis said, we have a lot of other infrastructure demands that are going to take whatever revenue is produced in the county to try and handle the more pressing needs. Ozello Trail falling off into the marsh is a little more pressing than T-hangers. And so when it comes time to spend money on things, those are the things that are going to get the attention of this board and I think future boards going forward. If you're looking, I shouldn't say if you're looking, you said you're looking for consensus. I would certainly support the 40,000 for the consultant so we can do this right. I would like to see us move forward with the 3 leases. If it's not going to make any difference to the long-term trajectory of the airport, long-term plan of the airport, we got people wanting to invest in the airport. I say get them on board and let them get started. The lease terms, looks like you had asked for, do we want 25 plus 5 renewals or 25 plus 2 renewals? Do we have a preference? I don't know. I don't own an airplane or a hangar.
Madam Chair.
I mean, I'm looking for direction. I mean, is there something that y'all would recommend? Let's go with that.
I mean, again, when you're looking at, one thing to look at is, what is the capital investment being made? So if it's if it's $500,000 versus $200,000, then you may expect to give that person a longer lease. I mean, that would, from a business perspective, that's normally how it works with a ground lease. That could be one qualifier. I mean, this is Frank, not a consultant, but as soon as that 30 year, so you've got 30 versus 50. As soon as that 30's up, county can do whatever we want with that thing. So,
Right.
That's the thing. These legacy leases, I believe the rate is 17 cents a square foot for the ground under the hangar. When's the last time you got anything for 17 cents?
Right.
Absolutely.
So again, I'm not a consultant and I don't know, but I think if folks are willing to invest their money and there's demand, then usually something's going on. It's a good deal, right? So that would be my 2 cents.
Well, I would think there's got to be an industry standard out there that if the hangars reach this threshold, if it's a $500,000 hangar, you're going to get 5-year extensions. If you're building a $200,000 hangar, you're going to get 25 plus 2 5-year extensions.
I think, yeah.
That's what I'm hearing from you. So I would say let's see what the what is out there. What are other counties doing? What is that threshold that gets them into a much longer lease?
Chairman, may I just speak up a
Yes,
little bit? First, let me back up. I was remiss at the beginning of the presentation to announce that we have some Aviation Advisory Board members in the audience. One is our chairman, Heiko Hollenbach. And also, I believe I saw Mark Klingel was in is that all day? I apologize, I did not mention them at the beginning of the presentation. But also along the lines of what you were saying, when these issues came up, that's what senior staff directed me to do at that time, the 17 cents. I remember to bring that sheet. I didn't bring the other one that I'll mention in a minute, but I contacted eight other airports, and the average price at that time was 15 cents a square foot for leases. It didn't really matter the size. So we went in the middle, 15 cents. And of course, with the CPI, it's increased every year, last 2 years to 17 cents. Same issue with the lease terms. I contacted several airports, mostly in the vicinity, and the average really industry, the way I saw it, was about 35 years for a commercial lease on the airport. That was the average.
And that was, Madam Chair, still have the floor?
Yes, you do, sir.
And that was regardless of the size of the,
If I remember correctly, it was, yes, it didn't matter the size.
okay. But seems to me that there should be some way when these larger hangars are built. The new one over at the Crystal River Airport that was just constructed. I have no idea what that cost to build, but that's the nicest looking hangar at either of the airports. Surely, if people are building facilities like that, there's got to be more than, I would think they're going to want more than 35 years of renting that space, and we want to encourage them to build nice facilities. Maybe that prompts them to go to the next level and build a nicer hangar at our airports. Again, these things are loss leaders for the county, so we get all the economic benefit and no loss. So anyway, just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bays, did you have something? Then Commissioner Davis.
When you say you looked at surrounding airports and they said 15 cents, did you compare the development of those airports to ours?
No, it's very difficult to compare an airport to an airport. There's so much differences, location and things, so no, we did not look
But
at
would that be a mitigating factor of how you would determine what you're going to charge on a square foot based on
Oh, definitely.
what's available at those airports, how they're developing out? And is there a difference between a commercial airport and an industrial airport?
Or even a general aviation airport like outside of Tampa, it's obviously going to be different than up here or West Palm Beach. They're obviously a different financial status than a rural GA airport like ours. Some of these examples were Hernando Airport, Marion, Ocala, Sebring. Did look at Vero Beach, Naples, Leesburg, St. Pete, Albert Wooded. They were only 12 cents a square foot. Don't know why. But no, it didn't get into the nitty gritty of their financial status, economic build out and so forth.
Frank, as our economic development director, do you have any input on that?
Well, here's what I would say, and I don't want folks to think, that a ground lease is the same thing as renting a hangar. And when I say folks, I mean basically the public. So the reason these folks are getting 15 cents, a square foot and 17 cents a square foot is because they're bringing their capital, building an asset that the county then owns. So basically, it's a lease back at a low rate to allow them to recover their investment. So that's kind of what it is. But my point is that term should be, in the business world, that term should be designated by the investment so that the amount of years should be like this. But again, it's surprising, but some of these things somebody did it years ago, and that's how we do it. Counties wanted to get hangars built, and that's the way to do it. But again, a better way to look at that is $200,000 hangar, 30-year lease, $500,000, 50-year lease. This way, somebody's actually running a financial formula to see, where's the return on investment point? And honestly, from the county standpoint, how quickly do we have complete use of that asset and then can put it out there? It's paid for. Now we can put it out at an actual hangar rent, which now you're talking maybe $1,000 a month versus 17 cents a square foot. So again, folks are making an investment and they have a right to return that low lease rate for that. Again, this is historically how it's been done. I love the idea of the private investment because we've got pent-up demand. There's capital out there. People want to build things. That's how you build things fast. Again, we will forego that just with private capital as well. We'll forego those hangar rents. It may be a few dollars a year or something, until they recover that 10 million or whatever they put into it. But again, that's where the consultant will give us a roadmap to do this, I think. I may not have answered your question, Commissioner Bass.
Well,
Yeah.
again, I look at the Crystal River Airport and the Inverness Airport a little bit different, in a different light. I look at the Inverness Airport as more of an industrial airport with a lot of opportunity. And you and I have had lengthy discussions over this, working with the Coochie Tech School to help them apply for a grant to get an AP school out here. Working with Londa at Livewire to, potentially move her helicopter business here. Looking at the relocation of creating a heliplex so that we can move the emergency aircraft for the helicopter for the ambulance service down there, moving the sheriff's helicopter down there. So are we in a position then to, if we're going to create a heliplex, you can't put fixed wings near a heliplex. How do we make a decision that we are moving in the right direction if we move forward with this and keeping fixed wing and a heliplex separate of one another?
Yes, and that is something that we discussed with the consultant. So they're going to look and see if a heliplex is something that eventually would be a good fit for Inverness Airport. Because it's not in the master plan, it has to be something that we've brought to the table with them and said that's a line of business that we are interested in exploring. And their job is going to be look around the state and say, okay, yeah, you know what? There's not one close enough, or maybe there is, but here's your niche. Fish and wildlife, the Bay Flight folks, or the medical helicopters. We've got opportunities. We know that. But I think at this point, we're going to need the consultant to look at that and really look at the state. Because we know we have certain, for example, Hernando County Airport, we can't be them. We can't be Ocala. We can't be Leesburg. But we can do what we can to expand our particular lines of business. And I think the heliplex idea is fantastic. I think there's economies of scale when you get 5-6 helicopters at your airport. Now you've got more justification to keep mechanics and things like that. So it drives itself, but I don't have that answer yet on the heliplex. It is something the consultant has agreed to look at as a line of business.
Well, I'm a little confused then because, this is a company that has expressed a desire to move their operation here. We've been talking about it, looking at it, kind of designated an area to move them into. We even gauged getting a $9 million appropriation around this. And now you're saying we're going to put this on ice?
No, I would say here's the difference. Public Works has $3 million to build a 10 to 20,000 square foot hangar for that aviation company. So an aviation hangar is different than an actual heliplex. So we get a helicopter company. We've got a hangar. That company is first on the list for that. Public Works has the money, $3 million. We're going to build it. We locate them. Then maybe if we can get Fish and Wildlife, and then maybe we can get one other helicopter. Now we've got critical mass for a heliplex. I don't think that at this point I don't think it'd be prudent, and I'm not a planner for aviation, but to shift, the master plan to go right into that. Now, if the consultant says that's your market, let's do it, I think that's fair. Then we start thinking heliplex. But we do have that Public Works hangar to bring that first helicopter company in.
Well, I am no authority in this business. However, what little knowledge I have about this and having discussions with this company, if you have helicopters, they don't want to be near, or I should say fixed wings don't want to be near helicopters, especially in the situation of having hangars, because as they come in, their rotors are blowing dust and moving stuff around, so they don't want that similar location. And this business, and they're not just talking about housing their helicopters there. They're talking about moving their operation where they're going to do actual industrial type development and build their saws that they suspend. And so there's a lot more opportunity here. And, you know, I guess I just have to say it. We've been talking about economic development for a long time. And we never seem, it's like having one foot on the banana peel and one in the grave. We just never seem to kick it forward. This is an opportunity that presents itself today that we can start actually implementing something. I understand that we need a consultant when we need to go forward, but how many studies do we need? I mean, we do them one after the other, and you know, times change, boards change, employees change. We never seem to get anything moving forward. And I'm all for the consultant. I'm 100% behind it, but I'm also ready to put a shovel in the ground and start turning some dirt. And, you know, if we can create jobs, it's an opportunity for this county to start changing the trajectory of generational poverty. That's right. So I would love to hear from Alonda and her company, Livewire. I think she's brought her person here today. But I'm very much in favor of trying to figure out how we're going to move forward in actually starting to move the needle instead of just having another study.
Thank you. I do want to tag on to that. Okay. I was hoping 3 months ago, and I don't know how long have you been with us, Frank?
4 months today.
Okay. So right out of the gate, I was hoping that you could say, listen, working with Quincy, working with Public Works, this is a great area for this. This is a great area for that. I was hoping, again, I would like to see some shovels in the ground. I've been talking about this for 3 years. I appreciate everything everybody's saying, but when you're talking about we have only so much land. I'm not desperate to give that land away. And when I want to call an airport to find a comparison of a reasonable rate, call an airport where we see ourselves wanting to be, with a restaurant, with a car, with a nice, why do you think I wanted to move the animal shelter? Yeah. I want an entrance into this industrial park that shows we mean business. So, don't mean to beat up on you.
Nope.
But we've had 3 months, for the love of Pete, in the private sector where I've spent my whole life. This is excruciating. So, I'm all for a consultant. I want a plan. Mm-hmm. But you know what we have that nobody else has? We have the land, and we're in the center of the state. If I were the economic development director, I would be selling, yeah, we're not Leesburg, but guess what we are? We're in the center. Mm. We want that state agency to come and land their helicopter here. And so I'm tired of being like, well, we'll get what we get. No, I want us to project what we're going to get. So that's my soapbox. I agree with what you're saying, but come on, can we step it up?
Can I make one thought? And it's
yes, ma'am.
This is also a very difficult position. I mean, we actually have somebody that wants to make an investment here, but on the flip side of it, they have to have a level of certainty, because that's a big deal to take and move their operation from Alabama to here. They want to know where we're going. They want to know what our future plans are. They want to know how this is going to look before they have a commitment. And it's not about, we'll throw some mud on the wall and see if it sticks. I mean, and I understand that's what this plan is supposed to do for us. But I don't think we can get the plan, then turn around and go, well, we're going to wait till 25 to do another master plan. I mean, we have got to start rolling something out.
Okay, so a few points. There's a lot of info, but speaking with the FBOs and the aviation folks, my understanding helicopter can land anywhere. We've got a big airport, and they get towed into their hangar. So we could bring a helicopter operation today if we had a hangar ready. So then we don't have a hangar, so we've got to build hangars, right? Now, Public Works has the money. It takes time, but that is my understanding. Mr. Chan and I were there the first time I went out to the airport. 3 Marine helicopters, the largest I've ever seen in my life, came in. And, you talk about downwash and prop wash. I mean, those suckers were giant. They did their thing. They held out the storm, and all 3 of them took off. So, I mean, again, we are ready to build that hangar. We've got a letter of interest from Livewire Aviation. We can only do what we can do. If you put a bond out there, I'll build you a heliplex. But I don't want to, I think that building a heliplex without knowing we've got critical mass and getting that critical mass, I think that's throwing spaghetti on a wall and seeing if it sticks. I think a financial analysis says, what are we going to do with these airports? Where are our efficiencies? What are our lines of business to expand? I think that is it's a strategic business plan. I mean, you need that, because if you tell me, go get private capital to build out the airport, they're going to laugh at me if I don't have a business plan. They're not going to spend there. That's a barrier to entry. I have to have a business plan that says, this is who we want to be, and we need your money to do it. So it is part and parcel. I'd love to move forward, but we need either a plan or the money, or both preferably. So it's the chicken and egg, and I think we need to get this plan together so we could show it to private capital, or make the case for a bond issue and build those 100 hangars in the commercial aviation. I mean, I think big. We bonded things in Sumter County. I mean, we build parking decks over there for the downtown. I mean, I come from an area where, put it this way, my economic development budget right now is $3 million in Citrus County. In Sumter County, I had $3 million per deal, per incentive deal.
Thank you.
So that's kind of where we're at.
Frank, I'm going to open it up to Commissioner Finnegan and then Commissioner
think I was next.
Commissioner
Yeah.
Davis.
I asked when
Okay,
Kennard was speaking.
Commissioner Davis, Finnegan, Kennard. But I do want to say this. What stopped you from coming to us 2 months ago and saying, hey, I'd like to get a study for that airport?
Didn't know. I had to ask the questions to be able to shine light on these items. I mean, honestly, until you dig in, and we don't know what it costs us to mow the airports. I mean, a basic thing like that. We don't know what we're spending on maintenance. We mow them, 7 times a year? But maybe we have the budget to mow them 10 times a year, or 12. Or, again, pilots fly in and the grass is up. That doesn't look good. So that's why we need to do this study. That's why you ask questions. And unfortunately, I've had to spend the last 4 months asking questions, and the scope got bigger and bigger because we have unknowns. I mean, when you don't even know what it's costing you to maintain, I mean, I don't want to just go on and on, but we've got some hangars that the county maintains. We've got some hangars that we're reliant on the people that build them to maintain. So if they don't paint them, what do we do? We go after them for code compliance? Does that make sense? Like, I mean, how do we get them to maintain their hangar that's falling apart? I mean, these are things that, again, when you're sleepy airports and staff don't drill into it. So, I mean, I drilled into it, and we got more questions than answers, but that's how you get better. That's why you ask those tough questions. I am encouraged by the fact that we can move this forward. We've got great opportunities at both airports, but, first you got to get those skeletons out of the closet and realize, like, hey, we could probably run this thing a lot better. So like I said, fundamental things like that need to be addressed, and that's what this study will do, because otherwise, I mean, I hate to use the pun, but we're just flying blind, right? We don't know what things are costing us.
Well, we don't want to fly blind anymore. Commissioner Davis.
Yes, ma'am. I'll make this brief. I absolutely 100% agree with the sense of urgency expressed by both Commissioner Kennard and Bays. I also agree with yours to look out there and see what we want to be, to do the visioning. But with that sense of urgency, we all know that we have a pretty dramatically unbalanced economy here. We don't have enough economic development here, and because of the imbalance of what our assessed values are in our residences, it's what is it, $1.70 to, that cost to support every single household for the dollar that they put in taxes. So aviation unlocks a lot of that. So the sense of urgency, and we need to be competitive and do a public-private partnership. That is what I am getting from thinking, sitting here listening and thinking. Where are the 3 hangars that are on deck right now?
Quincy?
We're still waiting on the decision as to what the term is. And from,
But where are they? Crystal River, Inverness?
oh, I'm sorry, Inverness.
Sizes?
All 3 of them are Inverness. They're all approximately 50 by 50.
Okay.
They would all be side by side on the south side of the existing 16-unit T-hangar building.
Where on the map?
I can back that up. Here's the T-hangar building, just for reference, Chairman. Here's the FBO facility. Here's the first 16-unit T-hangar building, and we're intending to put them right here.
The second blue hash?
Yes.
tag? Okay.
Instead of building the next T-hangar building there, we would start building these individual box hangars.
But it says the two blue lines say T hangars under construction.
Well, it's only, one of them has been completed. One of them is due to start this fall.
But instead you would put box hangars there?
Yes. The reason being is because as we've started having people come to want a land lease, we have very limited space that abuts an existing taxi lane. So that's where Mr. Lamb was pretty fortunate in his site, because it was the other side of that exhibit I showed. There was already a taxi lane there. In this case, we have a taxi lane on the south side of this first unit. So it would minimize their cost to build their box hangar, because they would just have to build an apron to the existing taxi lane.
And what about the ones on the northwest, I believe? The large what
These?
yeah, the new large conventional hangars, what does that, what size is a large conventional hangar?
I would say a large conventional hangar is 10,000.
Okay, so way bigger, all right. Well, I am inclined to get this show on the road. And as I said, be competitive, meaning not stupidly competitive, but competitive to get as much public-private partnership money as we can get to build out hangars, because that is going to turn our tax base around very quickly in the grand scheme of government. Thank you, Chair.
So do you mean wait until the consultant 6 months, till the consultant tells us about the land use, or are you saying you're wanting to move forward today?
I'm a little concerned about replacing T hangars with box hangars. Are they much wider? I mean, it just seems like it's not going to be the prettiest layout for the consistency and flow of the airport. I've been to those airports that have grown up very randomly and flown into them, and you can't make, as a pilot, you can't make hide nor hair of what's going on.
I've not really looked at other airports to see where if there's a mix mash of a row of nested T hangars and box hangars right next to them. In this case, the 3 units, they're only intended to be about 5 feet apart. So
If it's going
I'm
to
more of a practical person. To me, it would blend. We'd build the next T hangar unit farther to the south, but that is certainly at your discretion, whether we want to add those there or wait and put. And again, as you're aware, we plan on using that money for that second building for the commercial hangar. So we would not have funding for another several years to build the next building.
when we convene again on this subject soon, can you produce a 2 scale what the 3 box hangars would look like instead of that second T hangar?
Yes, ma'am.
Because I'm inclined to support it, but I'd like a little bit more vision.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Commissioner Finnegan.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak up. We haven't had an economic development director for quite some time in our county. I'm so happy that we have you on board. I just don't want us to start beating him up. He's been on the job 4 months, albeit a very important task to figure out the airport, not his only task. And in that time, you've already got a grant secured and have the ball rolling and have met with businesses. And I think he is trying to push this forward. But I feel like we're sending a mixed message because in one regard, we're saying we want to do this purposeful. We want to do it the right way. We want to have planning. But then we're shouting out to him saying, but do it, do it, do it. You have to do this right now. And you need to tell us. He's not an airport planner. So in 4 short months, he's made a path to get this company and this business and other businesses at the airport. So I feel like getting that consultant and doing it the right way, although it's going to take a few months, I don't see that dragging out a long time. And I think he's going to be on it. So I just don't want us to send a mixed message to you. I feel like you're getting a mixed message.
I'm tough. In economic development, you've got to be tough and resilient. So I think there's a lot of passion. I'm passionate too. We all want it. I mean, I've lived here most of my life, so we want to get things done. And but sometimes you just need to do it in a strategic way so you avoid potential mistakes.
And I would agree with that. And that's what I wanted to point out. Let's do it strategically. Let's get a good plan. Let's get a good business and move forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Finnegan. Commissioner Kennard.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the leasing of the hangars and that being done by the FBO as well as by the county. I think the FBO, as has already been said, will handle those leases much more efficiently with better customer service. Not that we don't have great staff willing to do that, but county government moves a whole lot slower. So I would be in favor of letting the FBOs handle that stuff.
Commissioner Bays.
I'm good right now.
Okay, Frank, I appreciate what you're doing. I hope I probably did give you a little bit of mixed message because I've actually been talking to Livewire for 3 years, and you've been here 4 months. Now Rebecca Bays is dealing, that baton's been handed over here. So there is some frustration with that because I've been trying to get this going for 3 years. I've been asking for hangars. So I just wanted to make sure the only thing is, and you did answer it, is why wasn't this brought to us 2 months ago? But you answered that. I appreciate it. I am definitely in support of what Commissioner Finnegan said. Let's do what you want to do. Hopefully 6 months is your target. And let's be purposeful. I'm going to keep saying that. And so you have 2 supporting that. Hopefully the rest will. I think you got a consensus on the 40,000, so that's good news. And again, appreciate what you're doing. You're doing a great job, but just do it faster. So there's a contradiction.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would point out that we do have another aviation business that is actively, I'm working with them, and I don't know if that person will speak today, but looking to locate in our county. But I need hangars to put these folks in. I mean, I've got waiting lists, and I need hangars because I want to go after more companies and bring them in. That's what I usually do. But I need the space to put them, and they need that airport access. They can't go to an industrial park, which, again, we've got 98% occupancy of industrial land in this county, and we've got 0.6% of our acreage is in industrial. It's minuscule. I need space. I'm going to have to work with private development to get that space done. Land use changes are going to happen to expand that. But when I've got an aviation business that flies the plane in, works on the plane, I've got to have space at these airports. So I need to build hangars fast. And we're on the same page. It's like we just are trying to problem solve and figure out how to do this.
Thank you, Commissioner Bays.
Can you clarify what you just said when you said you need hangar space, but you said
Commercial hangar space, yeah, for these aviation businesses that are going to work on planes. Commercial aviation hangar could be to store a corporate jet, or it could be to remodel planes, to fix their avionics, to overhaul. So that's a whole other thing. There's FBO, and then now there's something called MRO. So
Can you give an example of what the cost of a corporate hangar would cost?
I mean, again, they range in size, but I'm going after $4.5 million for a 24,000 square foot hangar. A 10,000 square foot hangar could be as little as $3 million. It just depends on all the bells and whistles. If you want office space, if you want, custom restrooms. So it's really almost like a house. It's hard to say, but I would say 3 million all the way up, to as much as $10 million probably. Is that fair, Quincy?
Yes, my understanding is about $150 a square foot.
And so if the county bonded and was able then to lease that out, is there any kind of FAA match or FDOT grant matches for those, or do we have to?
I think that's something that this analysis will explore. They're going to look at grant funding and so on. I don't have that answer, but I would say historically, since we've been able to, build hangars with FAA help and FDOT help, I'd say it open it up.
Well, typically, FAA does not fund hangars. DOT, all of our grants for hangars have always been DOT.
And that's typically a 50-50 match. Now, it used to be 80-20, now it's 50-50.
Correct.
Another lost opportunity, scales of economy.
Thank you. Frank, you want to?
Just one question
Wrap
for
it up?
Quincy. Can you explain how, by having more jet traffic, more plane traffic, how does that help the FAA help us?
Well, I don't think we've reached that threshold. I don't know that it's been a difference at that point. So I'm not really clear whether that impedes our grant funding as far as how much traffic we're getting. So depending on the projects, the scale that we have in our master plans, jet traffic doesn't really change the grant funding we'll get for these. Like an obstruction clearing project, it doesn't matter how many jets are coming in, we need to do it. A runway improvement project, it doesn't matter how much traffic they'll fund doing that rehab project. So we have not had that be an issue for us at this point, where they wouldn't fund something because we had low traffic.
Thank you.
Maybe you could clarify that. How does traffic help us with our goals? The more traffic, or maybe one of the FBOs can speak to that later, but obviously we
The
sell
more
fuel.
traffic, the more grants.
Well, there is some kind of efficiency when we get more traffic.
Maybe other grants besides FAA DOT grants, I'm not sure, but the way I understand, more traffic just overall benefits the county with indirect income.
The grant issue is covered in the analysis that we're asking to do. So they're going to be recommending those things for us.
Thank you. Board, anything else for Frank? Good job. Keep it
you.
up.
Okay.
We'll try to get you more money.
Thanks.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to open it to the public. If you would like to come and address the board, please step forward. There's a green card to fill out. You can hand it to the clerk. You have 3 minutes to speak. All comments are directed to the commission, to the chairman, and please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mike Kelly, and I'm one of the applicants for one of those box hangars you were talking about. I want to clarify a couple things. One, the 50 by 50 in this case is actually intended to house 2 airplanes rather than just a single aircraft. So it can be a medium size or a couple of light aircraft. In my case, it's 2. So you start thinking about those 100 hangars. In fact, that would be 6 of those aircraft. 6 of that 100 could be housed in those 3. I am really, Lost my train of thought there. In terms of the management of the hangars, I agree that the county should defer that to the FBO. And the reason for that is a lot of timeliness. I just recently had to rent a hangar at Leesburg. I had to turn that sublease down around in 24 hours. We couldn't submit it and then wait for somebody like yourselves to do that. The third point I want to make, and I went through this contract very, very carefully, and I think I emailed each of you, my comments. However, Section 33, I'm very strongly opposed to, and I've been advised that the wording in there that protects the leasee has been removed, and that is the auto renewal in the case of, at the end of the term, or in the case of a sublease, or in the reassignment, that it has to come back to this group. That is kind of onerous, and I would really recommend that either the wording be striked or you leave in the part that protects the leasee. Again, if this was managed by the airport FBO, I think the problem would resolve itself. But that's something that is definitely the terms that are in here. It would appear that the contract could be canceled or not renewed without reason, and that's not acceptable. So everything else, prefer the 50-year. Obviously, it helps me. I won't be around in 50 years. Probably you guys won't be sitting in those chairs in 50 years.
No.
But I'm sure you don't think of that. Anyway, so yes, we're making an investment, $250,000 perhaps, and the 50 years helps us a better return on those hangars. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. And thanks for wanting to invest in our county. Next speaker.
It's nice to finally be able to say something when you guys are saying a lot about us. So anyway, most of you guys know me. I've spent some time talking to each of you about kind of our business, but I'll just go over it quickly.
And your name?
Oh, sorry. Alonda McCarty,
Thank you.
Livewire Aviation. We own a helicopter company that does aerial tree trimming and vegetation management. We also do a lot of surveying for USGS, mostly anything that's an external load that hangs below a helicopter. We work in all 50 states. And currently we are headquartered in Andalusia, Alabama. We also have a hangar in South Carolina and a couple of others scattered out across the U.S. Our operations are split up right now because of sizing and also just because of the base operations that we have. We have 4 helicopters that we run. They run almost 350 days out of the year, as long as maintenance as well and things are going good. So it's a busy operation. And something I did want to say about Quincy, if you could bring the map back up real quick.
For this one?
The one that we were looking at the layout for Inverness.
That's
It's up
Okay,
right
sorry,
there.
I can't see it. I can only see myself over here. So, but the area that he was talking about for the commercial hangar space that we're talking about is at the end of the airport there. I know there was a bunch of fancy terminology thrown around about a heliplex and all these things. We currently have other helicopters already at the airport. And what it would basically just be doing is just kind of regrouping everybody that is in our industry basically to that end of the airport. And then also, using our connections across the industry to try to bring in other helicopter companies that work on helicopter maintenance, that do avionics, that would also, hopefully get Fish and Wildlife Service there. I know that's been on the table. So it's not necessarily designating something that we don't already have. It's just organizing it in a better manner that would facilitate our operations, would facilitate everybody that's there, but then also facilitate allowing other operations to come into that same area. It doesn't have to be next to the runway like some of those other hangars do because, like somebody pointed out earlier, a helicopter can pretty much land, especially our size helicopters can pretty much land anywhere. Some issues that we've run into at other airports, we fly into between 5 and 7 airports a week, depending on where we are. And it is downwash, and it is people that have very expensive jets or that they have expensive aircraft that's private, that they invest a lot of money in, that when we come in, we blow stuff into their hangars, dust, all those kind of things. But not even just that. If there's loose papers in their hangar or they're in their painting or anything and they got their door open, we're causing issues for them, which we don't want, that to happen in the long-term run if we were, to move into the space. I think that Inverness has got a ton of opportunity. I was part of the group that went to Tallahassee that met with DeSantis as a rural development director to talk to them, along with Andy and other people that were there. Championing Inverness and how great of an opportunity that we have there. I just think that, we do keep kicking the can down the road as we change boards and as we change administration and as we change employees, and everybody's still trying to catch up, and I do know that we need a plan on what's going to happen with that, but everything's getting ready to change. State administration's changing, all of that. And if we can move some of these things forward in a strategic way that will allow more economic development into Inverness, I think that's a great thing. The thing that I am apprehensive about is that we have to have an investment on the county side as well. Right now it's very hodgepodge. You don't want to bring industry people there. If I was entertaining, clients, well, we have Asplin as a national tree company. We've got, maybe somebody that wants to bid on your tree contract. But right now, that's not a place that you want to, pull up and say, okay, we want to bring all these people here and tell them how great it's going to be, or try to convince a, multi-million-dollar avionics company to come in here and move their staff here. We just don't have that. And that's what we have to, strive towards. But it also has to be what on our end, what our industry is looking for. And I know you guys kind of went back and forth with Frank, but I also challenge each one of you to spend your own individual time going to an airport that you want to grow up to be. That's what I did. I spent tons of time going to a bunch of airports, looking at it and say, hey, what could I see Inverness looking like? We've talked about education there. We've talked about other, mechanics buildings. We talked about a school being there possibly. Like, there's tons of opportunity for that. You guys have to go out and do your own homework as well. Visit those airports, call them, find out how they're operating them. Are they running, their leases through FBOs? Are they running it through the county? Do they have an airport director? What are all those things that have made them get to the point that they're at? So Frank's one person. Each one of you can spend your time doing those things as well, to the point to where, we can look at where we want to be. And I think that's a good long-term goal, for everybody to be looking at as we're moving this airport down the road. But I think as an industry person, as a private individual, we have to have some kind of assurance that that work is going to be put in as well. That we're not going to get a hangar plopped down at the end and we're going to be down there worried about if our grass is getting mowed. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good morning, Commissioners. How are you?
Good
I'm Doug
morning.
Doty. Most of you know that. I just want to say thank you for looking at this, but aviation is important. One of the problems we have now with the T hangars, though, they won't fit a lot of the new aircraft. The people coming in, the wingspans are too big. So the corporate hangars we're looking at, or the hangars we're looking at doing, would only house a little bit bigger aircraft, that's coming in, and people have, and a lot of these people themselves have business in this community. I have business here. So, I have 9 employees, and we do roughly about $1 million per employee revenue per year. So, we're not just somebody wanting to build a hangar to go out and have fun. We're looking to build because we are invested in this community. We love it here. We love what you're wanting to do here. We've heard it from everybody, though. These 3 hangars, or that row, is not going to reflect the long term of that. I'm also a helicopter pilot as well as fixed wing. I'm looking to buy another helicopter as we speak. Quincy knows that. And I can tell you that for the most part, these 2 pilots do not mind flying in and out of the same field. I don't care what field you go to, you're going to see both. They're respectful to each other. They understand how it works. There are many T hangars that have helicopters in them, and they come in and out, and they have a cart. They'll pull it out to the area where it's got to go. So helicopters and airplanes, they're both aircraft. So I think it's important that we have both. I don't think what we're looking to do down there when we came in, it started for a reason. I was looking, it took me a long time to get a hangar. When I came up on the list for a hangar, they called me and I said, well, I don't have a aircraft right now because, like you guys, you wouldn't have a new Bentley convertible sitting out in the sun. Some of us ain't gonna have a nice airplane sitting out in the sun. So I was waiting for a hangar to come available. I missed that opportunity. So this last time it worked out, but Quincy brought it, why don't you just build a hangar? So I started that process like Mr. Lamb and Mr. Montgomery. I just want that same opportunity. As far as lease goes, the term, most of the time, folks, the pilot, let's face it, 35 years, I'm not going to be flying. For me, my granddaughter will, so it's important to me to get term. She recently, 18 years old, just got her pilot's license, working on her IFR right now, and her goal is to be a commercial. She wants Southwest, so, but she's going there for it. So for me, it's important to get term. Most of these times, folks, are going to get turned back into you because pilot dies or moves on no longer, he doesn't want it anymore, you get it back anyway. So term doesn't really matter as far as I'm concerned. Mike and I, Mike was given to me by Mr. Quincy. Mike moved here from out of state. A lot of people moved to play golf. Pilots also moved where they have airport opportunity, okay? We have a great opportunity here. We spent yesterday at X-ray 35, which is Denellen. You know, their term up there is 35 plus 5, but it's indefinite. As long as there's a pilot in there, they're good with that because the pilot continues to invest. They do not want any non-pilots. You know, it needs to be for that purpose. So I appreciate you looking at it. I do not think it's going to reflect the hangars we're looking at doing will house a little bit bigger aircraft. Plus, they're the right color. They're gonna fit in. They're not gonna look stupid there. They're not like some of the things that you see. I understand what you say. You fly in airports. There's one here. There's one here. All different directions. These will be symmetrically right in a row. They'll look right. They meet the fire code, 5 feet apart. The best doors in the business. You know, which Quince said. Same company that they use for the commercial hangar there. They're already purchased. So because we were kind of told to move forward. Go to the aviation board. We went there. The aviation board said, yeah, we need these. So we started moving forward. We bought the doors. We just like the opportunity to invest in the community as we have been. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Doty.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Doug. Good morning.
Morning, Commissioner Schlapp. Thank you first to host this event so we don't have to wait 2 hours listen to the library board to. And the fact that you dedicated this meeting to deal with only for the airport is set the importance of this meeting. Thank you very much. My name is James Wu Chen. I'm owner of Crystal Aero Group. We have a flight school and FBO running at the Crystal River Airport, Captain Don Davis Field. The Frank mentioned about this business. He's waiting to get the hangar to move into the county. That's my business. It's a FAA 145 repair station specifically for the avionics repairs installation. Currently, that business is in Ocala International Airport. And the airport becomes so big, the rent has become so high, and I'm in the process of moving that down, and I need a space. There was one point I feel I was rich, I can build the hangar myself, and we had a piece of land available next to the current county hangar. And I think at that time, I got the cost to build the hangar about 85 feet, 105 feet. That was like 3 years ago. I think it cost $650,000 on the private sector. If the county built up, probably even more with the current construction cost increases. So I'm looking for a place, hopefully in Crystal River. If not in Inverness, that would be fine. But I want to bring that to the county, that business. Second, I want to mention that in Crystal River Airport, on the improvement item, we have a very short list. Security camera, because we have pointing the camera to the fuel farm. It's a really secluded area, need to be watched. And also, I mentioned from the last meeting, because of the hurricane season is coming, a lot of pilots divert to our airport due to the weather. And most of the time it's in the afternoon or late afternoon. And when the business is already closed, they have no place to stay and no place to use the bathroom. So I proposed the idea to build a front walkway. It really helped the pilot community. That idea was very well received, and we have the budget, some kind of a budget on that, but and there's the staff changes and that had the waiting, and then we're hoping we get the support from the board to approve that. Last item is about the economic development. Frank had mentioned it. He came to the airport a few times and we met. I am absolutely support what he was trying to do, collect the data and then work with the consultant, come up with the right plan. So I pledged to him, I will provide past 10 years of our business record of what really this historical data, what Captain Tom Davis kept, and I kept the same format as he doing. And that data will be available for, that's all. Thank you.
I hope you can find an architect for that front. Next speaker. Good morning, Captain. You get 5 minutes.
Oh, thank you very much. Good morning, Madam Chairperson, members of the board, and ladies and gentlemen. My name is Heiko Kallenbach. I reside in Pine Ridge, and I'm the chairman of your Aviation Advisory Board. On behalf of the board, I've been asked to speak and just extend our thanks to you for holding this workshop this morning, considering everything that our airports offer this community and the needs that they have to continue producing at the highest level. You've heard today of the master plans of each airport. As comprehensive as they are continually being updated. You saw the short-term requests of the FBO at Crystal River, the short, medium, and long-term needs of the airport in Inverness. By no means are these lists necessarily exhaustive. New issues will arise on a regular basis as we move forward, and there will always be new opportunities for investment, new opportunities for growth that will come before you and need your consideration. At the end of the day, the DOT economic survey that you saw suggests that these airports in total put together about $18 million a year in economic output to Citrus County. And that was back in 2019. So that does not include yet the impact of the runway extension at Crystal River, the impact of the business park in Inverness, both of which are moving forward. And the sky really is the limit with respect to all of that. With respect to the hangar leases, I will say that we get a briefing every month, the Aviation Advisory Board, on hangar space availability, and that number typically is 0, with a waiting list as long as my arm at each and every airport. I have a good friend who lives in Crystal River who's in the process of buying an airplane, and he's reluctantly going to have to hangar it in Denellen because there is no space in Crystal River. So anything that we can do, and we talk about shovel-ready projects, these leases are shovel-ready projects. They're ready to go. The money is there. And I understand we want to be competitive, but not overly so. So I would encourage, the board would encourage you folks to work with the potential investors that want to build these hangars, find a mutually agreeable term and a length of lease, and let them move forward with the money that they're looking to invest, and hopefully come up with more and more private investors that are willing to build hangars not only for themselves, but then also work out some sort of a leasing capability. On a completely unrelated note, but still relevant, as you probably know, I'm a pilot recently retired from Delta Airlines, and as such, I feel qualified to speak on the ongoing boom in the aviation industry that's going on right now. Delta Airlines alone says they will be hiring 2,000 pilots every year for the foreseeable future. Add to that Southwest, American, United, and all of the other carriers in this country. There is huge opportunity, not only for our youth here in Citrus County to get into a lucrative career, but also bringing in students from far and wide. We have 2 thriving flight schools here in Citrus County, and any support that they can get with respect to infrastructure at these airports will only make them that much more successful, more opportunities for our youth, and more opportunities to bring in students, as I said, from both around the United States and foreign countries. On top of that, obviously, no airplane is going to take off until a mechanic has deemed it airworthy. With Lakuchi Tech is planning to put together a maintenance program, and Inverness Airport would like to host the training facility for that. And again, anything that we can do to support that will bring in untold growth into Citrus County and opportunities for our young people. At the end of the day, folks, we have a very, very thriving, growing community, both in terms of population and in terms of tourism. Every penny that you invest into these 2 airports will be paid off in spades, as they're essentially gateways into our little paradise here. So, together. Let us know what we, the Aviation Advisory Board, can do for you, and let's get our home soaring to new heights. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Captain. Heiko, can you fill out a green card?
Yes.
Thank you. Anyone else? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you guys for putting this together. Certainly appreciate the focus on the airports here in Citrus County. Economically, we are proud to contribute significantly to the community. And thank you, Frank and Quincy, for putting excellent presentations together. First off, I want to say we're super excited about the fire department. That's something that we brought up in particular for the business park as we're looking at industrial applications, because the business park has been a challenge from a water perspective. So Frank will talk about that, I'm sure, at another point, because if you're looking to bring light industrial manufacturing, you have a lot of water requirements for fire. The fire department being there will significantly help out, with insurance rates, obviously at the airport, but with the Highlands as well. It's also, the location on the north end is great, in particular, at the moment with AirLife, Shabana recruited AirLife to the county. So we do have emergency air rescue services that are provided to the county. Their location on the north end is actually perfect together with the fire department, since obviously the fire department provides EMT services as well. And so at the moment, the two work hand in hand together very closely. So them being co-located on the north end could be extremely beneficial. As you know, we're a airplane and glider flight school. Some things you may not know about us is since coming here in 2018, we've hired more than 40 career level positions and individuals from the local community. We're very proud of that. At the moment, we have 3 open positions, as an example, for high paid career level positions for A&P aircraft mechanics. They're difficult to find here, which is the reason why we're thankful that Frank is pushing the grants, which he'll ask for your approval later today on the county side, and then working together with WTC to bring that forward as well. Of course, there's a new director there who we met with last week sometime. So we're going to be, Wright Rudder is helping to form the basis for that course. One of the challenges is that traditional A&P schools that exist out there, such as the one in Punta Gorda or the one in Tallahassee, train to old technologies. You may or may not be aware, but last year or the year before, I forget exactly which, Wright Rudder, we set a milestone, and the first person to earn a pilot certificate in an electric airplane did so right at our airport, at our facility. We are using cutting edge technology, and we're really excited about the business park. It's one of the reasons we invested in this community, is because we have the ability to expand our operations in that business park. And what we'd like to do over the next 5 to 10 years is bring aircraft manufacturing to the Inverness airport, in particular with cutting edge electric personal aircraft for the flight training market, because that's our specialty. Speaking of flight training, we are the lowest provider of flight training in the world, or lowest cost provider of flight training in the world. So we do bring a lot of people from other countries, a lot of people from other states who stay with us in the area, short-term and long-term. This is one of the reasons housing is important to us if we're looking to continue hiring these career level positions. Speaking of that, we also operate a program for Mesa Airlines. I'm sure you guys are aware we began operating that program in October. We started with 16 cadets, and we're very quickly moving to 40 cadets that come to our community, stay here, spend their money, eat out, things like that. And they're typically here for between 1 to 6 months. We have the opportunity to expand that beyond 40 cadets up to 200 if we're able to secure attainable housing in the short-term market for them. So looking forward to that. Mesa Airlines is very happy with how that program is going. A lot of talk about FWC today. We're very pleased to announce that we recently won a contractual bid to maintain FWC's fleet at the Inverness Airport. That was just announced last week in a competitive bidding process. So you will be seeing more FWC aircraft at our facility, and we also currently fuel them on the airboat side. Can I continue? Okay, thank you. On the hangar side, we have, since we came here in 2018, we have been requesting additional hangars, of course. The state of Florida, as you guys know, 1,000 people a day are moving to the state of Florida. Significant percentage of them have aircraft, and the individuals that do have aircraft are typically higher net worth individuals, therefore helping with the tax base. And so any hangars that we can get, whether it's private or whether it's bonded or with DOT funds, is definitely welcome at the Inverness Airport. With that in mind, I've been working since we came here for the last 5 years to secure a private line of equity to build another corporate hangar. It's difficult to do so because you can't qualify for traditional mortgage due to the fact that the county owns the land and you immediately hand over the rights to the building as soon as the certificate of occupancy is granted. With that in mind, I've successfully secured $5 million in funding to build another corporate-style hangar adjacent to our facility. So we'll be bringing that to you guys shortly. We'll be working with Quincy, Frank, and Steve to make that happen. I believe we have a meeting Friday about that. In terms of the operations, if you were to track the operations before our arrival, the operations, which counts as a takeoff or landing at the Inverness Airport, was probably in the neighborhood of 10 to 20 a day. A couple years ago, we installed a system called VerTower at the airports at both Crystal River and Inverness, which tracks the number of airport operations. And we're currently at about 150 operations per day. And that's about to increase as we get more Mesa aircraft. One thing I'd like for the study to consider is the traffic that's created by the racetrack when the races occur. When the races occur, South Airport Road is inaccessible to emergency services because there's no marshaled traffic or traffic plan. We do like the racetrack and appreciate it being there, but I do believe if we had a plan for traffic flow so that roadway did not become blocked to emergency services, I do think that is an important consideration. Thank you very much, and y'all have a great day.
And sir, could you state your name and where you live?
Yes,
please?
Andy Chan in Inverness, Florida.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Any other speakers? Okay, I'm going to close the portion of open to the public. Board, any final thoughts? Very good. Okay, I appreciate this workshop. I appreciate everyone coming here and giving your opinions and thoughts, and I'm really appreciate a board that is supporting the local airports and wanting to see us grow. Thank you. We have a 10:30 workshop, and it is 11:11. So let's take a, what do you think? 5-minute break. Is that good? Long enough? You need a little more. 5 minutes. How about 10 minutes? I was gonna say 7 minutes. 10-minute break, and then we have a regular meeting at 6. So at 1. God. So I'm adjourning this meeting workshop. Thank you.